for. Hail, hail, the Celts are here, and we've got trophy 119, not that anyone's counting, in the bag, and we are here for the latest edition of the Sorare Celtic Supporters Club, the SCSC, here on the Celts are here, live and loud on a Thursday night. I am Quinny, of course, and I'm joined as ever by the hero, the myth, the legend, McBride Ace. Good to see you, my man. Hail, hail.
Hello, it's nice to see that I've actually recovered from Sunday as well, so good few beverages had. Aye, brilliant day. Good evening, everybody, and we'll get stuck into it and get chatting. 119, yeah. Brilliant. Superb. I love it as well, by the way, that is superb.
Well, I definitely need to, I was thinking we've used it a few times. It's a nice clip and all that, but I've got hundreds of Celtic clips over the years of like being in the stadium, big goals, big moments, good fan chants and stuff like that. So hopefully over the festive period, I'll have a wee bit of effort put in, maybe have a nice kind of compilation, kind of really get the juices flowing intro before we kick off for it normally. But I really enjoyed that. That was the day Brendan Rodgers got unveiled as manager the first time around. Yeah. That's, you know, we had like that full, the main stand, as it's called, the wee stand, as you can see in the video, it was packed and it was like 3 o'clock on a Wednesday or something like that. And that's where the bag of cans came from, because everyone showed up with bags of cans and everyone was just going for it. It was a great day. Yeah. And it's a lovely clip as well. I'm a big fan of it. Lee Griffiths is on the podium as well, doing the old Zombie Nation dance with the trophy, which was good fun. Yeah. But yeah, we got together last week and we previewed the game. We went through the projected 11s and how the game would pan out. And, you know, like, I don't think we expected the game to be as back and forth and as tightly contested as it was. I think Rangers gave a different approach to the game, which I didn't see coming, certainly. But we very much were, you know, I didn't see much from Celtic at the final that wasn't in line with what we've seen so far this year. Like, maybe if there is a slow start, we can change it up. There's more than one hero in the team where if someone else isn't pulling their weight, someone else will step up. And, you know, been getting to all the refereeing stuff as well. But what was your big takeaways? What's your thoughts and feelings after the dust is settled over #119?
Well, I think between me, my dad, and my brother, there was almost about 4 heart attacks between us. So, I mean, it was mad. First half, and obviously, I think the overall thing is that looking at like the Club Brugge game and what's happened and the way teams are starting to play against Celtic, I think that teams are realising that playing a certain way, they'll just get battered. And obviously, there was a couple of times in the game where Rangers had sort of worked on that sort of situation where we were playing in a certain way or in a certain pattern, and they were able to sort of work on that. So there was, you know, the giveaway for the first goal, and then which I thought was pretty even first half, kind of handed that to them a bit. And then there was the 4-on-1 against Carter Vickers where McGregor and Taylor gave the ball away between themselves there as well. It was a really competitive game. I think we did mention last week that we thought it was going to be a really competitive game, so I don't think that in itself was really a big surprise. Good reaction, you know, obviously Greg Taylor getting his goal, which, you know, I slag him probably more than most people in terms of my own opinion, so it was good to see him obviously bounce back, even though he's been involved in that stuff. Really interesting taking off Trusty at halftime as well. That was a pretty interesting one, you know, in terms of the overall tactics are struggling to play out a bit for the back. And then I thought we'd won it, you know. At the end I thought, right, you know, we've done the sort of hard graft here. We've scored a brilliant goal. Engels was really good for it, but it was just a really good team goal, and, you know, quite, you know, quick football, electric. Everybody was buzzing. Then again, we give away the goal at the end, but everybody stood up to be counted. I mean, like even in the penalty shootout or whatever, you've got a brilliant save from Schmeichel. You've got Dyson Maeda with an incredible goal during the game, just typical him. And then he steps up and hits the penalty, and it just seemed like, you know, the Dyson. I remember it now from what I remember, because my dinner was a bit delayed by the extra time in the penalties and everything. So I was starving.
Bring your dinner, McBride. Did you bring your dinner?
No, do you know what it's like? It's like half free game, right? And you think, right, well, you've had your breakfast, you're going to have a few beers and stuff, you're watching the game, and you think, right, by 5:30, I'll be sitting down eating my steak pie. And I don't know what time it was by the time I got my dinner. It was like, anyway, so what was I saying? So whatever I remember of it, I'll remember it of the Dies and Maida Cup final. That's just that image at the end where he scored the penalty and it was his family and all that sort of stuff. Was just it was magic, and the goal he scored was like, it's just incredible. Just sometimes he does stuff and you think in your heart maybe he doesn't mean that bit, but you know, if he didn't mean the first bit, then the touch and the finish was just unbelievable, and it just thought it was brilliant for him. So yeah, it was a great day, and I must admit, I think the meltdown since Monday's been even better. So
it's been Hall of Fame level banter years, hasn't it? Like, and again, like the thing that like really like fair enough, like the Willie Collum thing has come out today, and I don't know how to think about it, right? Because if you look at the rule, I seen Juco James put this on Twitter. I'll go and find it. I think everyone in the Celtic community loves a wee bit of Juco James from the Huddle Breakdown. But when I seen this from James, where is it? This one here. I'll pop it on screen. I thought, fair enough. Like, if you read the rule and like to the letter of the law and all the rest of it, then, you know, whatever, right? This is it here. Juco, you can go and find him at Juco James. This is bloody blah. He went and referenced the law. He went and found it. And he's highlighted the part here. It's probably better if I look at it on this page here. If a defender starts holding an attacker outside the penalty area and continues holding inside the penalty area, the referee must award a penalty kick. Now, I was previously always under the impression that, you know, if it starts outside the box and ends in the box, you're going to get a free kick. I've seen that 1,000 times across European and world football. I don't know when this rule changed. Maybe it was a year or two ago. Maybe it was just for this season. I don't know. But that's quite clearly the rule. And again, for anyone that's not in doubt or in doubt, if you imagine on the white line of outside of the box, imagine the edge of it had a black outline. That's where the box actually starts. You know, it's from the edge of the white line, as it were. So by all accounts, fair enough, right? I guess I'm happy to hold my hands up with my previously wrong interpretation or whatever, but I can't believe that's the rule. I've seen so many fouls in football where it starts outside the box, ends in the box, and ends up being a free kick right on the edge, you know, and that's a contentious thing at the time between the players and the ref. And you see this in the Premier League, Bundesliga, Champions League. I've seen it 1,000 times over. So whenever it's changed, fair enough, right? But the meltdown off the back of it has been incredible. And it's so hypocritical because they're now trying to claim that like the penalty to Rangers meme is like something that we've made up out of being paranoid, you know, like, oh, they're talking about it at AGMs and Michael Nicholson said this and, you know, all the rest of it. But it's legitimate. And, you know, what's starting to happen now, McBride, is we're actually seeing, because Willie Collum's talking about accountability, that's something that's really increasing the refereeing this year. And the number one thing Rangers are pointing to right now is that they've not had a penalty yet this year. And that's what we wanted VAR for, was just to make sure that the fuckers couldn't cheat anymore, because they have been, you know, they've been the primary culprits of it. And for them to be spitting, no, they've not even spat the dummy out, but they're smashing it off the wall, stamping on it on the ground, and then putting it back in their mouth and spitting it out again over this one penalty that they never got, despite the hundreds of penalties that they have had for the last 20 years or whatever that they shouldn't have had. It's comical, to say the least. And I don't think it quite has my blood boiling as such, but it irritates me that they can just like forget about everything but this one thing and ask for the game to be replayed, ask for the game to be null and voided, bringing all sorts of other stuff into question. It's like, Jesus, man, do these guys have no shame? You know what I mean? Like,
Quinny, that's the best bit. That is the best bit. That is the best bit of the week. That is honestly the best bit. If you think back to won the final last season as well, obviously the Adam Ida goal at the end, and there was a huge meltdown about remember when Rangers had scored from the corner, Tavernier had whipped it in, the ball went in the net, and it was given for a foul or whatever, you know, which was obviously spotted. I don't want to spend too much time talking about the penalty, because at the end of the day, Celtic won the cup, and our name's in the trophy, and that's it. And you get decisions for and against you, and happens with all teams. And it happened at a point where loads of things happened after that as well. Who knows what would have happened? They could have missed the penalty. We could have scored 2 goals after that. It was an unbelievable cup final. It's just been a huge meltdown. And I'll tell you the reason why it's been a huge meltdown. It's been a huge meltdown because 118, 119. That's why it's a huge meltdown, because it's a cup final and it means everything to all Celtic and Rangers fans. But this particular one meant even more than that. And that's it. I mean, like I listened to the phone in on Monday night, and I was still pretty hungover at that point, and cheered me right up. I was buzzing.
There's a curer.
I was like, I've had my dinner now, and my dinner for that night, not for the night before. And but like honestly, like people obviously like it's a lot of passion for the game, and obviously that's part of the world. It's Celtic and Rangers, and like that's just the way it is. And you'll never, I don't think you'll ever have a game Celtic against Rangers where one or the other one wins and there's any sort of controversy in the game. You won't have some sort of reaction to it, because that's the pure passion about what's going on. But there's an undertone to this, and the undertone is that it's not just about that game either. It's about how much success Celtic have had for a long period of time, and it's obviously you can imagine, like we're obviously enjoying this success, and you can see that we're not taking it for granted. You see the reaction of players. You seen Brendan Rodgers at the end puffing out his cheeks. The reaction of all the fans. We're not actually taking that for granted. But you just imagine the flip side of things, like how obviously raging you would be if we were in that scenario. And I remember, as you can see in my beard, I'm getting quite old now and everything. But I used to go and watch the games. Celtic get a draw away at Partick Thistle, and I'd go with my uncle, and he would say, "That was a good result today. I won each." You know, we're obviously blessed to have this period of success, but the flip side of things is it's really really difficult. So yeah, it is what it is. But I mean, I like what they're doing with the refereeing stuff, where they're coming out and saying, well, this is it, and they're releasing it. But see, at the end of the day, when you look at this sort of analysis of what they said at the time, so it kind of looks as if the foul's mainly outside and started outside the box, and the referee's blown for the foul there, so we're just going to leave that. That's what VAR is. VAR's not there to re-referee every single decision in the game. The VAR is there to obviously step in where they think that there's an obvious error. And you'll see, maybe even in the English Premier League games or whatever, every weekend they'll be on a Monday morning or whatever talking about decisions, and people will have different opinions on it. And sometimes that will sway based on whether or not the decision was given in the first place. And sometimes you've got to say that if the decision's been given and it's pretty spot on, that you don't always have to step in and overrule that decision. So if the referee was looking at it for this angle and he hadn't spotted it, but it was really obvious that the foul had started in the box, then VAR would have just said, well, that's a penalty, because you don't even need to go to the screen for that. You just say, right, it's in the box, it's factual, but it's not a factual decision because everybody's still talking about it a week later or whatever. So, you know, that's what it is. I think we move on for that and just remember that we've got the trophy, and we look forward to hopefully more success.
The first part of what you said there was that's been the fun part. For me, the fun part of the meltdown is just the pure unadulterated pain and like trying to rationale everything. So much so, right? And this has been the funniest bit for me, right? Is when you see those accounts going, oh, but Celtic won 3 trophies during the war, and we also won 10 and 6s, and we also won Glasgow Cups and stuff like that. So we've actually got 124, and they've actually got whatever the number they came up with was. And it's like, mate, wait till the end of the season, because we're going to win the league and we're going to win the Scottish Cup. So even if you got this League Cup, or even if you can take away 2 trophies from the war or give yourself another 4 trophies, we're still going to overtake that. Pish, you know what I mean? Like, you can't, the buffer you're now trying to invent, just honestly, just phone the painter and decorator. Just phone the guy. Stop putting it off. You know what I mean? Just phone him. Get him in there, get him to wipe that crap off the wall, and stop delaying the inevitable. Yeah, I mean, that's been the most fun for me, is the pure copium, you know, absolute just freaking out about it, you know, and changing the goalposts of their made-up title. And by the way, for the record, in my eyes, the most successful club in world football is Real Madrid. Yes, we now have the highest trophy count, but their wording of it, which has always made this a joke, is the most successful club. And that's the part of it, because again, they're including Glasgow Cups, which is against who, you know what I mean? And all these other, we've won things like exhibition trophies and all the rest of it. So like, there's all sorts of other stuff that goes into it. But yeah, for the avoidance of doubt, for me, Real Madrid is the most successful club in world football. And I think like that is just emitted from Real Madrid. Everyone in world, any football player will sign for Real Madrid at the drop of a hat. Really, no matter. And we've seen Real Madrid be quite crap about 10 years ago when they had like Van Nistelrooy and Schneider and Royston Drenthe and whatever. Still doesn't stop them. Anyway, we've got the most trophies. That's cool. And we're going to get more. We're going to finish this season on 121. Of that, I have no doubt. And then we're going into next season chasing into 124 and onwards and upwards from there. And then, yeah, like they're also doing this as well, Kenny, where they're trying to bring both clubs together for the trophy haul. And you're all waiting for someone called this. I forget who it was because I'm in a lot of live chats now and I listen to a lot of Celtic fan media, but I forget who said it. So if you know who it was, feel free to credit them in the live chat. Live chat, by the way, is on fire right now, guys. Fist bumps to everyone. Please do hit the like button on YouTube. It means a lot. It supports the channel, helps us grow and all that good stuff. But it's only a matter of time before they start including the Petrofac Cup and Scottish League 2 and Scottish League 1 and all that other crap just to help the copium kick in. But the last thing I'll say on this, by the way, is see with the referee coming out and saying what he said and all the rest of it, there is now fantastic pressure on consistency of decisions and all this now, because like the crap decisions that have went against us in the past, we have seen so many things where it's like, how is that a penalty against Celtic but not a penalty against Rangers? Or how do, that kind of thing, essentially. So the more cheating like that gets stamped out. And I say cheating because if anyone watched the game at the weekend, the blooming linesman right at the side that the managers were on, I forget, it was in like the first half towards the Celtic fans half, the linesman on the Celtic fans half, it wasn't even 50-50 decisions. It was like Carter Vickers knocked the ball off of someone and he was like, corner, throw into Rangers. And you seen Vickers like going, ref, like what? And he's like backtracking into the box to get into position. Gave them all sorts of crap like that all game. And the more that gets stamped out. It's a great comment that kind of underlines just kind of what I'm saying now. And I think I had it on screen, but I think I've pulled it off. But this just puts an immense amount of pressure on them for the 2nd of January, because I do think that they showed up. I do think that they bridged a little bit of a gap in that match, in the sense of like they did the thing. They didn't do the thing of who can we put on McGregor to stop Celtic playing. They went back from that and they sat off us and they tried to jump on loose passes or passes across wide spaces. And that won't work at Ibrox. It won't work twice against us for a start. But at Ibrox, they're going to need to try and attack us and all the rest of it. So they're now thinking we should have won the cup and we're closing the gap and Big Phil's the man and all the rest of it. And it's just setting them up for an even bigger meltdown in the new year, maybe.
Yeah. A 2nd of January won't win them a trophy, but that's the thing. Like the reality is, there's an 11-point gap in first Old Firm of the season, or Glasgow Derby, people want to call it. It was a non-event. Celtic coasted it. So Celtic have built the right to have that gap. We were talking before we came on quickly about, maybe Alistair Johnson's out, who's playing for injury, and you might see Ralston and stuff. But Celtic have strengthened the squad a bit as well. So squad's looking a bit better than last season. And there's just a reality of the situation now as well. It's not just about the first cup. Obviously, the first cup's pretty pivotal, but it's also from our season's point of view about the position we're in the Champions League and the position put ourselves in the league as well. You can't rule out stuff like going in that horrendous night to Aberdeen where it was 60 mile an hour winds and getting a clean sheet and winning 1-0 and all of that stuff is all really relevant. So okay, I think it will be a tough game, 2nd of January, and there's no doubt that Rangers will be right up for it. But we'll deal with that when it comes. Still a few games before then as well, and it'll be interesting to see how all of the sort of respective groups or the actual squad, the manager and everything all react, because you can only imagine that there's going to be more pressure on Clement at some point as well. Saying that I like a particular comment from Tavernier, but felt as if they were getting closer.
Yeah.
Obviously not looking at any league tables or any performances. Ali McCoy summed it up. He said, as much as it pained them to say it, Celtic are the best team in the country by a good distance. So that's what's really getting on the Rangers fans' tits. It's not just losing the cup. It's losing all the time and realising that actually they're just not actually good enough. That's the problem more than anything else. So
Tam Mac as well here. Oh, sorry, when you go.
Yeah, bugger VAR. I mean, what? Remember when they brought it in and all the horrendous decisions Ange was claiming it, complaining about, and Connor Goldson running about. He could have had goalie gloves on, and inside the box, and just they just weren't given. And it's as if it's only like Celtic are getting the benefit of decisions. It's crazy. Like it's just mad for me. There we go.
I was going to say, Tam Mac has hit the nail on the head here. I've seen Mike McCurry on one of the Rangers fan sites. I forget what they're called, Rangers Review or something like that.
Yeah.
And if anyone that doesn't remember, Mike McCurry is the guy, if you've seen the legendary Craig Levine rant about Dundee United getting absolutely shafted off of Rangers in the cup final. I can't forget when it was donkeys ago, but they had like Noel Hunt, guys like that playing for them. And if you find the rant, it's on Twitter because people have been sharing that again. You see the rant and it's sliced in because it's a live Sky Sports interview at the time with the incidents. And when you see like the penalties he didn't give, the goals he chopped off and stuff like that for Dundee United, he is the poster child of the refs are on their side for the most part. You know what I mean? And they're bringing this guy on to a Rangers fan media YouTube channel to talk about it as if but that's normal. Can you imagine we got refs on or any of the other big Celtic channels got refs on to talk about it? It just wouldn't happen for a start. And you would raise an eyebrow to like, oh, is that guy a Celtic fan or whatever? These guys are blatantly wearing white gloves and putting a wee thing over their chest and going out for a march every so often, aren't they? So I thought that was like kind of like you're revealing your true colors. You're kind of showing like, I don't know what the phrase of the word is, if you know what I mean, but they're kind of, it's like the magician showing the tricks kind of thing when you got a referee on Rangers fan media talking about it like the next day. So I thought that was hilariously contradictory in a big way to say like the refs are biased against us. Here's Mike McCurry to talk about it,
I thought Beaton actually refereed the game pretty well, to be honest. I mean,
he wasn't bad, was he? Beaton wasn't bad. It was the linesman that was really he was probably told like, mate, anything on your side, we'll let we'll go for it.
And I do think that, I mean, like with that particular big incident, like he's called it absolutely spot on. There's no way he can call that sort of is it in or is it out from his angle. And there we go. We can move on for that. Let's talk about other stuff. Talk about Kieran Tierney or the weekend or whatever. Let's move on. We've got the trophy in the trophy room in the cabinet, and that's it.
I think I would rather leave Tierney stuff until we maybe get some more developments, because I am of the opinion the Tierney stuff today is a bit of agent talk. Apparently, he's prepared to take a huge pay cut to come back, right? If that's true, fair enough. I can believe it because he's been playing at the Premier League. He's a top-end player for us. He's always has been. He'll give a lot of that steel and the personality into the squad that we need and we want. Totally get it on a lot of levels. But that game he got last night or the night before in the League Cup, and then all this stuff starting. This is just an agent. Arteta, give him minutes so everyone can see he's fit, and then go in and say Celtic and Premier League clubs are interested. And the Scottish media will just take that like they have and just like, Tierney's coming back, everyone. Maybe he does, right? But I want to see some further development before I kind of go into it again. So it feels like we've been speaking about left backs and Kieran Tierney for the last 3 months on and off. So I don't really want to dive into it too much unless you want to wrestle something about it in particular, McBride.
No, it's just that, like, I mean, I think me and you have discussed it before. Like, the idea of Kieran Tierney coming back is a really good one. I think people get quite excited about that because we remember how good he used to be. I'm particularly, I just like known, like, I've fallen through Sorare, like even having his card in Sorare, all that type of stuff. Like, he's just not been very useful in terms of games played and everything. So, I think over the last 5 years, he's only started like 10 to 15 games a season, and he's a lot of sub appearances and everything. So you've changed, Quinny. What's going on? It's changed the camera. But in terms of Kieran Tierney, obviously it would be a brilliant free transfer, but I'm just a wee bit worried about his injury record, and if he's going to be on a big contract and everything, then is he really what Celtic actually need. That's the sort of overall thing. So there we go. We'll try and get Quinny back. I'm sure he is.
I'm here. I'm just changing the battery. Sorry.
Switching the batteries over the cameras. Aye, there we go. I'll keep talking till you get your camera back on. But I think if he's actually pretty good in terms of like reasonable fitness and he's still playing at a good level, then it's a no-brainer. Like free transfer. I just don't think with like the way our schedules and everything stack up that it's kind of what we need really. You know, look at this run of games we've got coming up just now. I know we'll need to manage squad anyway, but like I just wouldn't really have any confidence that he would be able to play even 2 games a week, far less like 3 games a week. So, you know, it's a difficult one. There he is.
Yeah, so I think, yeah, it is like half a player, unless like it's half a player in the sense of like you can't buy him and not have a backup as well because we're losing 2 left backs as it stands now, maybe 3 if you include Bernabe, right? So we need to get 2 left backs undoubtedly. And yeah, let's just see how it does kind of shake out. In that way. But yeah, I'm not holding my breath on Tierney. Like we've spoke about before, there's so many good targets that are like young up and coming players that don't have injury concern, could be a little bit cheaper, which the club tends to like, and could have sell-on value. I've got no problem at all, especially if we're getting Tierney back for nothing. And he does take a wage cut from what he's on because then we've just fleeced Arsenal an absolute belter. So I don't mind that whatsoever. But Alvaro Barreal, who's a player that I've kind of linked to us a few times on this channel, he has been hotly linked at the moment to a move to a pish team in Portugal. But they want him on loan, and Cincinnati want like €4 million. And this is a wee Argentinian left back that can bash free kicks in, can score from range. He's more of a winger, but has had a better career as like a left wing back in America and in Brazil. And for like $2 to $4 million, like bring him to paradise. By the way, he's a whip, you know. Never mind Kai Wagner, who's probably going to the Championship.
Quinny, you're not going to believe this. And you can verify it for everybody that's on here as well. I bought Alvaro Barreal on Sorare about a week and a half ago.
Oh, what do you know?
I would just say he was obviously at the end of the season in Cincinnati and he was on loan, I think, to the Brazilian Championship. And then there's a whole thing about whether or not, obviously, he would have a contract with Cincinnati or be sold on. But it was pretty cheap. But I can back you up with that comment. I mean, he was brilliant in the MLS, and I know a lot of people don't give credit to stuff like that, but there's a lot of good players in the MLS, whether or not you actually rate the league. But I mean, I'd love to see somebody like that, and I'm not against Kieran Tierney coming back, but I wouldn't push the boat out for him because he's not going to be reliable, and you know, we can't really get into sentiment and everything at this point. I mean, I think we'd almost be getting him on the basis that nobody else really wants him, and that really concerns me. Like, in terms of why does nobody else really want him? I know you get a game midweek, but the Premier League game at the weekend or whatever, Arsenal played like a guy who's 17, who's had like 2 first-team appearances or whatever. You're thinking that's the prime game that Kieran Tierney was in the squad for. He's not like he's not at his peak. He's older and defenders tend to develop as they get older, but he's a guy who's had a lot of misfortune with injury in his career and it's held him back. So he's not at his peak. He was at his peak when we sold him for 25 million. That's the issue. So I'm not against him coming back, but it's got to be the right deal, and we've got to work around that. And you know, it might still not happen. So as you said, let's not spend too much time talking about it.
Yeah, Sanfrecce Celtic here is kind of on the same wavelength with me. So as much as you can manage his minutes and we'll get another left back in and we'll rotate, you can't control when somebody gets injured. You know what I mean? And if he is the best left back in the team and it just so happens we need him and he's injured, then that's not much of a consolation that we managed his minutes before he got injured, you know? So that, and the last thing I'll put on screen about it as well is what McLaughlin says. That would be quite prudent. If we could bring him in on loan, really stress test him, and then like he'll be free anyway in the summer. I don't mind that as like a route, but we'll have then Taylor, Valley and Tierney in the building. You know, like that just feels like a bit of a headache for this season, disrupting the apple cart and all that.
I'd rather see us buy Valley, to be honest. I mean, I like Valley. I think he's shown a lot already, and also Brendan Rodgers has shown that he can develop young players as well. So if we manage to convince a guy like that to sign and buy into the whole thing, and we get him at that age where he's only 20, then that for me would be a more sensible approach at the moment. But we'll see how it plays out. I just, after the James McCarthy thing, I just don't see why we should be handing like multi-million-pound contracts to people that have got that not really shown that they can actually stand up to the test, because it's a tough test at the moment. You know, you'd have wanted them playing against Dynamo Zagreb and playing in the final at the weekend and everything there, and I'm not confident that that would actually have worked out. So
I'm with you on that. And again, I think the final thing I'll put on this is, like, for me, I think Valley is just here on an apprenticeship. You know what I mean? I don't think Scottish weather suits him too well. I don't think he's a big. If you've seen that Aberdeen game, he was not having a good time. You know,
I know.
He was not having fun. And although he's like growing, developing, he'll definitely be like loving being here and all the rest of it. I think he's like, this will be a chapter in my career. This will progress me, and maybe he doesn't make it at Barca, but maybe somewhere else in La Liga will take him. You know, or whatever. So I'm kind of writing him off as a permanent, to be honest with you.
Okay.
But that moves us on quite nicely to the weekend, because we will have some rotation this weekend. Maybe, probably. Let's see how it goes. But we're away to Tannadice, which has been a happy hunting ground for the Hoops over the years. But Dundee United are close to Rangers this year, you know, so it's not a game to take lightly. It's not a team to take lightly. And at this point in the stream, me and McBride, we love to do our best to put ourselves in Brendan Rodgers' shoes and try and work out who is going to actually make the team. Who is he actually going to select? And we don't have a Dundee United predicted 11 yet to marry up against it. It won't really slow us down too much. But that's it. I've not got Forrest on this, right? Because I've seen Forrest wearing a protective boot after the final. So I think Forrest is out at the moment, isn't he?
I didn't notice that. I was too busy looking at all the memes and everything on Twitter. And so I don't know. Sorry. Yeah, I think Johnson's the main one. Like, I think he'll be struggling. I think you're pretty likely see Ralston in this game. He did definitely confirmed in the article that he played through injury in the final, and then he was struggling and he had to come off. So yeah, the only thing I would say has been a week in between, and a lot of those guys played the final, maybe played the full shebang and the penalties and everything, and Johnson only played 70 minutes. So yeah, but I think you'll probably see Ralston, even if Johnson's fit, maybe a bit of caution with him with so many games coming up.
Yeah. Confirmation. I wasn't tripping. I didn't imagine that Forrest was in the boot on after the game. Because I remember the chat was like, Forrest was on penalty 6, but he actually had this mad injury, you know, where he's been clattered, maybe bruised a muscle, pulled a ligament or something. I actually just wanted to go and check the upcoming fixtures when you said that, McBride, because we're playing Dundee on Sunday, Dundee United, which is the 22nd. 4 days later, Boxing Day, we're at home to Motherwell. 3 days later, we're at home at St Johnstone. And then 4 days later, away to Ibrox. And then 3 days later, at home at St Mirren. And then 3 days later, Dundee United. And then 3 days later, Ross County.
Mental.
So this could, it's mental. Yeah, is the word for it. So I could definitely see Johnson getting rested for this if he was carrying an injury into that game and got clattered. So I actually thought Ralston and Bernardo, Ralston and Engels coming on at the same time. I would have really rather Rodgers avoided that. I thought Bernardo should have stayed on for another 5 or 10 minutes just because they were both on the same side of the pitch. And you felt that at that point, they put Yilmaz on, they made a few subs. They felt like they started pushing down their left, down our right. And with Engels and Ralston both coming in cold, as it were, felt like that gave them a wee opening for 5 minutes in the game. But yeah, I can see Ralston starting this former club as well. He was on loan at Dundee United. Could be in for a goal in this one, the Birkie. He loves it. Valley or Taylor is a bit of a question for this. I think this is a Taylor match, but because there is rotation afoot, I wouldn't rule out somebody like Valley maybe starting this.
Yeah, it's an interesting one as well. I mean, he did start at Aberdeen too, so I wouldn't rule him out starting away. There's a lot of home games coming up, and I'm just thinking back to those teams that started at home. So you had, like, obviously Luke McCown playing some of those games, etc. as well. So I think maybe, especially if Johnson's out, I think you'll see Ralston, CCV, Trusty, and Taylor. And then I think in the Motherwell game, you'll likely see Scales and probably Valley in that game because it's a home game and, you know, you're expected to dominate the ball a bit more. And as you say, you've got to give respect to Dundee United. It's not about, we've won a trophy and we're 11 points clear. You have to keep up the momentum now and keep winning. So yeah, assuming that Trusty never come off for an injury, I think it was just pretty tactical based in that game. I think that Trusty started nearly all the away games recently, so I would expect what you've got on the screen there for the back.
And I think like with Trusty getting subbed at halftime for Scales like that, I think he will start the next game because of that. Similar to with Vickers when he gave away the goal against
Bruges.
Bruges, yeah.
Bruges.
I felt like he would be rotated, but then because that happened, Rodgers kept him in. I feel like Trusty will come into this game because he got subbed at halftime as like a public kind of vote of confidence. It's not like Trusty's been bombed. It was just in that moment. That was the move to make, and that's the way he done it. So yeah, I think this will be the defence. And again, Tannadice isn't the biggest pitch in the world. Taylor likes to get on the ball, and his kind of style of play and what he likes to do will probably be quite useful in that sort of game. Somebody's also mentioning that Hatate was hobbling around at the end of the game. He couldn't walk. He had, Hatate's done this journey, McBride, and we've seen it where he was a 60, 70-minute player for like 2.5 seasons. And over the last season and a half, he's really became a 90-minute player when we need him to be. But 120 minutes is a totally different hurdle altogether, So I don't really think he was like injured or anything. I just think it was like absolutely he was maxed out, couldn't walk, was maybe getting some cramp and some pulls and stuff. I don't think you rest Hatate for this game necessarily, but I've got two angles here. I thought something looked wrong.
I think Hatate will start because he did start against Aberdeen. If you remember, he was left on against Aberdeen, and guess what? He came up with that bit of magic, and he scored. And I was even like saying, "Oh, he's been rotten for the first half," and I thought it was poor against Dynamo Zagreb as well. But he came up with that moment of magic. So I think you'll probably see something along the lines of McGregor, Bernardo, and Hatate, then with rotation, and then you'll likely see Engels and McCowan coming in then for the home game against Motherwell. And again, with the other games in mind, if we do get any of those situations where we're comfortable, you'll probably then do a bit of rotation and start. Maybe you'll have the odd game where McGregor comes off at 70 or whatever, because he's not getting any younger, and playing every 3 days for the next 3 weeks or whatever is not going to be sort of an easy task from that point of view. So it'll be bearing in mind we've got some big games coming up. For example, the game at Ibrox, but it's nice to have some reasonably good home fixtures as well, because I think then you can sort of prioritise the away games and make sure you've got that sort of full 11 out as far as you see the best 11 that starts for those, and then you can keep other people happy. Can you say, all right, you'll get 20 minutes today, but you will start on Saturday and all that sort of stuff. And everybody's, you seen the end of the cup final, everybody was still delighted, so so there we go. Michelle said, why haven't we seen training photos this week? Because Sunday game, Celtic will train on Saturday as well. So you might not get any tomorrow. They'll be training on Saturday too. So it'll be a nightmare for Sorare's point of view, because we've got the deadline tomorrow. But I'd imagine it'll be the same team as started the cup final, but we're Ralston in for Johnson.
I actually disagree on the Bernardo. I think Engels comes back in for this game. I think we're going to have a lot of the ball. I think Bernardo has been really useful in this run-in, but we've been playing like Aberdeen, we've been playing Champions League, we've been playing them in the final, where you need Bernardo to be a bit more that kind of safer pair of hands, as it were. That guy that will just cover any gaps and be sensible. Whereas Engels has been doing better off the bench the last few games, and I could see like we're going to dominate the ball in this game. And we're going to want to go and win the match rather than like having Bernardo help us defend the middle ground, as it were. I think Engels starts this for me personally.
Yeah, I've not seen a lot of Dundee United, so that's probably to my detriment in this discussion. But yeah, I can see why you could do that. I mean, I guess you could have Engels start, and then you could afford to play Bernardo and McCowan maybe against Motherwell or whatever. So that's quite interesting. I'll need to go and change my Sorare teams now. Thanks, Quinny. Good point. I guess actually we might end up with a couple of changes, because although I said the cup final thing, it might be a good game for Ida as well. I don't know. I mean, Ida does tend a wee bit more to start the away games, so could be one where maybe Furuhashi sits on the bench, comes on, and then starts the game, or it could be vice versa as well. We've seen Ida starting a few of those home games at Celtic Park too, so just whatever way Brendan sees it for this game.
I think on twofolds, it's a horses for courses thing where Ida is kind of preferred in away games. Kyogo's done really well at Tannadice in the past, but if memory serves me correctly.
Yeah.
But Kyogo, again, didn't score in the final. It was maybe, again, unlucky with one or two of his chances, but we've been bemoaning him on this channel for the last few months that he needs to be fucking killing it. He needs to be scoring, and he's not. And I think like Ida has done more than enough at this point to get a start. I make you right. I think Ida does start this, but it's a very 50-50. Like, again, I wouldn't be surprised if Kyogo started this and then maybe against your Motherwells or St Johnstone's, maybe Ida comes in for the start. But I could see him working Ida in this period here, Dundee United, Motherwell, St Johnstone, to play them away in the derby. Again, Kyogo does great at Ibrox. So it's definitely 50-50, isn't it, up front? I think Ida could be preferred quite easily. With there no being any Forest, like Yang's probably going to be on the bench, right? But I've also put Palma here just because, like, we're not going to be subbing off Ralston in the game. We're probably not going to sub any centre backs, and then we probably still will make 5 subs at some point. So I think we maybe get a minute or two for Palma. But I think after Dyson's became Mr. League Cup, hat-trick in the semi-final, was the man of the final, and he's living his best life. And I think you'll want to keep him on form, fit and firing. So I think he starts.
Yeah.
And obviously Kuhn over Yang, obviously.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. And I think the Alistair Johnson's point of view, I mean, he's confirmed that. I think he even said in the article, like, you know, we'll need to see about Sunday. So that suggests that he's struggling for Sunday again. He said that he wouldn't have started the cup final if it wasn't such an important game as well. So he was playing through injury. So you've got to expect he's going to miss some games soon. If he was playing through injury, he's got to be given a wee bit of time to recuperate. He does, you know, come back quite quickly from things. He's made a stern stuff, but yeah, the squad's going to have to be used, and yeah, that looks quite likely. I do agree with you in Engels as well. That's quite an interesting thought. So after we finish this, I'm going to go and change my predictor-fi prediction based on your expert tactics there. I agree. And he was good when he came on the final, obviously got the assist. I think like he's had his sort of wee spell out the team, and he's shown enough when he came on, and you know, he took a penalty as well, didn't he? Scored a penalty. Yep. So showed a bit of bottle there as well. So that was nice. So yeah, looks good.
I think the only thing, like, I do agree it's going to be Trusty Vickers, but again, because Engels will be on taking all the corners, does Scales is a bit of a threat these days. You know, as maybe Scales get a wee shout. I don't know, because he was the hero of the final. But I think, yeah, Trusty will probably get the vote of confidence. Like, you weren't dropped, mate. You were just tactically, we had to tweak it, kind of thing. So it's just when I think about Engels swinging in corners, I'm like, I wish Big Scales would be on the end of it. But if we've got Big Ida in there, then, you know, maybe Ralston goes up for it. Who knows? But Vickers has got a goal or two this year. That could work as well. But I think this is a good one. And I think, like, the thing with Dundee United away, like, if I look up the head-to-head, it's been generally quite good over the last couple of years. You know, the last time up there, let's look at away at Tannadice. 2-0, 9-0, 1-1, 3-0, 3-0 is the last 5 results. And then before that, a 0-0, a 1-0, 4-1, 3-1, 3-0. So very often we're scoring 3 goals or more. Very often. Dundee United, wow, how many games is that? Since 2015, in all competitions, 1, 2, 3. Dundee United have scored 3 goals at Tannadice against us since 2015.
Interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 matches that is in all comps.
It's usually quite a 10 matches to go. I think that, I mean,
not for us. There's been some draws there. There has been some draws there, fair.
I just mean, like, this season they've actually done relatively well too, and you know, I suppose it's quite a close league in a lot of ways outside Celtic as well, because bear in mind Rangers have dropped a lot of points as well, and it also depends if we want to play with, you know, that high intensity, a lot of energy type thing. You know, we could come out flying after the cup final. Was Vickers hungover after he's putting 119 in the thing at the darts? You know, it looks as if maybe been given a wee bit of leeway to let their hair down a wee bit as well. But rightly so, it's before Christmas. This huge run of games coming up. They'll maybe even be in, like, doing some form of training Christmas morning or something, because there's a game in Boxing Day. So I get that. So yeah, but I think the reason I think that trusting Vickers and Taylor will start is because Johnson's likely going to be out, and I don't think he'll want to make too many changes in the defence away from home, unless he does see it as a high possession game and says, right, we'll play Scales and, you know, we'll bring Trusty back in. But I think most likely be Trusty, and I agree with you in the midfield. And yeah, I think like Kuhn, Maeda, etc., unless there's any real issues that they're managing there, kind of pick themselves, particularly where Forrest's out. And would you really want to start with Palma up there? Nah, let's not talk about that. Let's get him away to the MLS or something. Like, good guy and all that, but yeah, suitable for them. Aye, I think so.
And I don't think I can jinx this because, as I just showed on screen there, 15 games in the league, only 4 goals conceded. We are a clean sheet machine, you know. And Dundee United, yeah, maybe they've been a wee bit good at home this year, but I think, you know, we're on a tear. We normally end this stream, McBride, with some score predictions. I think off the back of the cup final, I feel week off, no midweek games for the boys, which is good for the ones that weren't, like battered and bruised off the aftermath of the cup final. I think this could be another one of those really good Tannadice games. And if I was to do a score prediction for this one, I'm going to stick to the clean sheet thing. I'm going to go for 3-0 on this one.
Yeah. I'll go 3-1. I think maybe it might be one where we do concede because we rode our luck against Hibs and we conceded a few goals against Rangers as well. So, you know, I think with Dundee United doing well, we may well concede in this one, but I do fully expect that we'll win the game, and then we'll make some changes. You'll see Luke McCown and guys like that been a bit more prominent in the home games where they've all done very well, to be fair. So
Bat thinks Winks. It's a new name in the chat, by the way. So the chat's been on fire today. Fist bump to you. And he makes a good point about the weather, actually. It could play a bit of a factor in terms of maybe not leveling the game, but maybe just taking a bit of like fire out of it, you know, and just kind of dampens the whole kind of tempo of the game and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I'm with you on that.
Agree with that, yeah.
I think there was something else. Oh yeah, like I say, guys, there's been a bunch of you joining us live today. The chat has been on fire. There's about 60, 70 of you on YouTube right now. Only 21 likes. Guys, come on. If you've not had a good time with us tonight, come on. Hit the like button and let's YouTube know that this is a good channel full of good guys, and they'll find other Celtic fans for us to come and join in the chat. And next week when we're back at it, not at Dens. I know it's not Dens, but mate, they're across the road. Tannadice. I didn't write it, but I think Swings did, you know. It's the same place. Let's call a spade, you know. But it helps the channel grow. It means we can get more fans into the chat as well. And, you know, we can get stuck into it as we normally do. I did an extra live stream last week after, not the final, but it was another match. Forget what it was now. But we'll try and do some more live streams on the channel as we can. I'm going to be out of town for Christmas, Monday to Friday next week. So I don't know what we're going to do for content here on the channel next week, but I'll be recording like mad over the next 48 hours. And we'll maybe have just some like topical pieces maybe come out, like the stuff I've did before in international breaks, where we look at the left back situation, we look at the squad, maybe we look at the Champions League, maybe we look at Balakwisha's name's coming up again. Maybe we look into left wingers, which is really you mentioned Palma there, of course, but you know, like that's kind of a hot topic for January when it comes around as well. Because it looks like we're going to, you know, maybe going to qualify for the Champions League knockout round, you know, and having more than one left mid would be handy, I think, you know, because sod's law, somebody will get injured, won't they? So let's cover the bases and let's strengthen from a position of strength like we've been crying out for on this channel for the last couple of years.
Take Balakwisha in a heartbeat. And that's again, they'll come back to Kieran Tierney, but there's loads of good young players out there. So, you know, I wouldn't be too disappointed if this rumour comes down. We don't get Kieran Tierney, but we go and start signing guys like that. And I would try to sign Gustav Isaacson last summer, and he's doing very well now for Lazio, and he's fully in the team, playing very well in Serie A and things. So I think we're looking at the right type of players now. And, you know, if we could add, I'm not bothered about seeing numbers. If we just add one good one, that would be absolutely brilliant.
Do you know what's kind of funny as well in this whole grand scheme? It looks like Lager BLK is replaced proper at 20. He got a game last weekend in his position and did pretty well. And it's so funny that a guy Rangers signed has been replaced by Lager BLK. Who could have got a game for us? Which is just hilarious, I think. But yeah, Balakwisha, the quote I seen was he needs to get fit first, and he's obviously the Belgian league is going to be taking a bit of a winter break over the next few weeks or whatever. So I think we're still going to wait for that proof in the pudding thing, which is maybe what Tierney had last night in the Carabao Cup, you know, of him actually returning to fitness before we go for him. Roma are apparently interested as well as maybe one or two other clubs, but I think Balikwisha would be, if we're like he's the guy and we're waiting for him to get fit and then negotiate a deal, then I can get behind that, because football players are non-fungible. They're not exactly, you can just go get another left mid is the exact same. If there's a guy that they want, get the guy you want. Don't get an alternative for a second best. So I can get behind that.
And the funds are there. The funds are there. We know there's a really good chance of progression. You can't actually register and play in the last 2 games, as you pointed out. So that was a great spot. But you can strengthen ahead of the playoffs, hopefully, and that we've actually accrued a bit of money by getting wins and getting points and everything. That's added a bit of extra money, and we probably haven't budgeted for as much in the Champions League as well. So yeah, we'll need to get a new trophy room soon because that's getting a bit overflowing with trophies. But that's not the biggest problem we have, is it? So.
And a bigger vault to keep all our cash in. Can't spend it quick enough. As soon as we start making it and spending it, we make it even more.
I'm sure Peter Lawwell and all those type of guys would have lots of solutions for not needing an actual bigger vault for the cash. But yeah, the trophy room is definitely a solution that's needed, I think, based on recent events, which is a good thing.
That's it. Thanks everyone that joined us tonight. If you are going to Tannadice or Dens Park, remember across the road, then have a good journey. Travel well. We hope you enjoy the game, of course. And if you're watching this after we've been live, get those score predictions into the comment section. Get your receipts onto the internet so you can say you called the right score when we come back next week. As always, I've been Quinny. I'm joined by McBride. It's been a great one. Thanks everyone that's joined us. Hail, hail.
Hail, hail. Good evening, everybody. Hail, hail.
Good evening. And we'll see you next week, guys. On the hoops.
On the hoops.